Okay, so what you should have in front of you is your test prep folder. Inside your test prep folder, you should have your materials for today's lesson. I emailed your parents the story excerpt from Daughter of the Sea. That's 3 pages long. Then you have your planning page, which we'll work on. And then you have a place to write your essay. If you do not have a printer and you're not able to print off your story, when you go on the computer and it comes up in your PDF, you will have the option up here. It says to, add notes. You click on the add notes and you get an option for either a pen or a highlighter. I'm going to choose pen because it's easier. You can choose your color. I'm a purple girl. And you can annotate your text and draw lines under details that you need for your planning page. Parents, if you take a picture of them with their annotated text on the computer and send it to me, I will give you guys 20 points for your house. So when you email the picture, tell me what house you're in and I will add up all the points. If you have the paper copy like I do, you're going to read it out loud and you're going to take your highlighter and you're going to annotate your text. So what I want you to do is to pause this video, begin to read your story independently, underlining things that you think are important, circling things that you do not understand. And when you get to the end of the story, we're going to go over them together. So right now, pause the video and read the story to yourself. Okay, so hopefully when you took a break to read your story, you did your strategies. The first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to pre-read the question. So I looked back at question 34, and it's asking me, what is the theme of Excerpt from a Daughter of the Sea? And how did these events in the story help develop the theme? I don't remember what a theme is, but luckily we have our wonderful folder that tells us a theme is a life lesson that readers can learn and apply to their lives. Okay, so I know that when I go into reading this story, I'm looking for a theme. I'm looking for some sort of life lesson that can be applied to my life. So now I'm going to start by reading top to bottom every single piece of information on this page. Bonus points to those who remembered to read the little blurb between the directions and above the title. So here we go. Ready? Follow along with me. Directions. Read the story, then answer questions 34. Lee and Juan and Shawnee are on an outing with the biology club when the group sees a pilot whale coming toward the beach. The club advisor, Mr. Manning, asks Leon and Shawnee to help turn the whale toward the open sea, but the whale keeps heading to shore. Excerpt from Daughter of the Sea. We remember that excerpt means a piece of. This is a piece of the story called A Daughter from the Sea. Why does he keep doing that? Leon asked as they splashed towards it. Wiping away the salt spray from his eyes, Mr. Manning explained that no one really knew why pilot whales beach themselves. No one really knew why pilot whales beach themselves. And I'm not totally sure what beach themselves means, so I'm going to box that out too. Their guidance system might get disoriented by a storm or some kind of geomagnetic field sent out by submerged rocks. Wow, that's a lot of information. So let me take that apart a little bit. I'm going to get out my pen, and I see submerged rocks. And I see geomagnetic fields. Okay, I'm going to try to take this apart a little bit so I better understand it. Their guidance system. Okay, I know that guidance, my parents can give me guidance, and that's kind of like help. So it's whatever system they use to help them. They get disoriented by a storm. So they get confused by some kind of storm or some kind of geomagnetic field. I know what a magnet is, and I know geo means earth, so maybe some kind of magnetic pull from the earth, and sent by submerged rocks. I know when I submerge something, I put it underwater. And we're dealing with an animal like a whale who lives in the water. So far, so good. Their guidance system might get disoriented by a storm or some kind of geomagnetic field sent out by submerged rocks, he said. Anyway, this little guy has double trouble. Pilot whales are social creatures who live in a pod, a community of whales. They depend on each other for help and company. Junior probably couldn't even survive without his friends. Then, even if we get Junior back into the sea, he'll die, Shawnee said unhappily. He'll certainly die if he's beached. Whales are mammals, but they're made to float in the water. That's important. He'll certainly die if he's beached. Whales are mammals made to float on the water. On dry land, his internal organs would very likely be crushed by his own weight. So this whale is in a lot of trouble. But don't give up hope, crew. The New England Aquarium has saved whales like our Junior before this. We just have to keep him from beaching himself until they get here. He broke off as the whale's tail whapped down on the water, practically drowning its would-be rescuers. One more time, group, Mr. Manning ordered. Let's try to get him turned around. Mr. Manning, he sounds very optimistic. I like how he's not giving up. One more time, he ordered. Leon dug her toes into the sand and grabbed a hold of the young whale's flipper. You have to try, she shouted at him. Here's Leon not giving up also. You're a son of the sea, darn it. Junior tried to dive in the shallow water. The others let go, but Leon stayed with him. Brave whale, big whale, go back to the sea, she commanded. Her words ended in a shriek as Junior shook loose and knocked her off her feet and into the water. Leon came up sputtering and saw the young whale heading for shore once again. Leon lost track of time. Over and over, they caught and pointed Junior in the right direction, only to have him swim back toward the shore. So here he is. After all their hard work, this whale just still keeps coming toward the beach. They tried the exercise until Liam's arms ached, and she was exhausted by the time a police cruiser arrived. With it was a truck full of men and women in wetsuits. Reinforcements, Mr. Manning groaned. Thankfully. About time, too. Mr. Manning stayed back to talk with the volunteers, but the others waded to shore and huddled into blankets that the police had brought along. Leon took a paper cup of hot coffee in almost numb hands and went to sit on a rock nearest the sea. After a few moments, Shawnee joined her. I don't think I'll ever be warm again, Shawnee complained through chattering teeth, and I ache everywhere. My arms and legs feel like they're going to fall off, Leon said. How long were we in there with Junior anyway? Shawnee shook her head, then asked, What was all that weird stuff you were talking about back there? Leon felt embarrassed. Grandpa says things like that all the time, she mumbled. I guess I was thinking aloud, trying to psych Junior out. Poor guy. He just wants to go home. He doesn't know how. I'm just going to make a note here that what they're talking about is they're tired. and cold. As she spoke, a van bearing a familiar logo drove onto the beach. Scientists from the New England Aquarium had arrived. When a veterinarian waded into the surf to check Junior's condition, Leon threw off her blanket and followed him in. So look at this. Even after she's done all this work, now she's tired and cold and exhausted. She sees the veterinarian and she gets back in the water. Sounds like Leon is not giving up on this whale. She held her breath with the rest until the vet declared, "I think we can save this one. We'll take him back to the aquarium's animal care center." "All right," Shawnee exulted, while the others whooped aloud. Exulted? That's a tough one. What do we think? If they're excited that the whale is going to make it, and Shawnee screams, "All right," exulted must mean excited. The veterinarian was beaming too. Oh, see, she's beaming, she's smiling. So that makes me feel that my inference that exulted means excited is proving true. "We got lucky this time. This whale is very young. If all goes well, we'll keep him till he matures and eventually release him." Leon remembered Junior's mournful, frightened cries. "Will he be able to survive away from his pod?" she asked anxiously. "We'll release him near another whale community that will take him in," the veterinarian explained. Then he added, "It's a good thing you found him when you did and kept him from actually beaching and hurting himself." Great job. So we read through our story, Excerpt from A Daughter of the Sea, and we were reading for a theme. So now that we've read the entire story and we've highlighted and underlined things that we think are important, I want to kind of scan through my paper here. So we talk about pilot whales beaching themselves, that he will die if he's beached, that Mr. Manning and Leon are both very, very strong-willed on getting this whale back into the water. Then on page 2, we talk about how over and over again they tried to push him back out to sea. Leon and Shawnee talk about how tired they are, how their arms and legs are going to fall off. They ache everywhere. They're tired and they're cold. They've worked so hard today. Then the veterinarian gets here, and Leon is motivated to come out of his blanket and his warm cup of coffee and get back in the water and help this whale. On our 3rd page, we see that Leon remembers that whales have to be in a pod and asks, will he survive away from his pod? And the veterinarian says yes, that they will be adopted by another group of animals. So now we have to think about our question. Our question asks us, what is the theme of the story? Identify the theme of the story. So we're going to take what we know, we're going to take what we've read, and we're going to begin to develop our planning page in order to answer what the theme of the story is. So you should have your planning page that looks just like this. There's a couple of things that we put on our planning page immediately before we even started. And I hope all of you remember what those things are. The first thing I'm going to write is the word restate. You guys always have to remember to restate. Also, in this corner, I'm going to write wraps. We're going to restate, answer, prove it once, prove it twice, and sum it up. Your homework / classwork for today is to come to our Zoom meeting tonight with a completed planning page. Parents, take a picture of their completed planning page and please email it to me tonight before we start Zooming. I want to see how you write out your planning page and answer the questions. Identify the theme of the story. Explain how these events help develop the theme, and we're using 2 pieces of evidence. Prove it once, prove it twice. I will have a large chart paper up with my planning page ready to go for you guys tonight. Any questions, you can email me throughout the day. But tonight, what you are going to do, or today, what you're going to do before we meet tonight is have a filled out planning page. So tomorrow, we can write our essay together. Bye, guys. Enjoy. See you soon.